we need to discuss this book.
Absolutely.
Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
Now, on my list, this book is one of my least... No, I'm kidding. No, this is Leia, Princess of Alderaan, which is a youth novel, right? Much kind of like the Padme book that we recently read. This is about Leia as a young woman before she becomes the more steadfast, stubborn, powerful lady that she is when we find her on the Death Star.
Yeah.
In episode 4.
Yeah. There's things within this where, like, I was like, okay, so this is after the events of, like, Kenobi.
Yeah.
And then I think of before the events of seeing her in Rebels when she brings those ships to Lothal.
Yeah.
Like that time. I'm like, okay, so we're in between these parts here. And it stated, too, in the beginning that
And
she's
surprisingly, no continuity error for Kenobi. When I first started getting to it, and there's like one spot where they mention Obi-Wan at one point in this book, and she goes, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but like nothing like that betrays the secret of keeping what happened,
Sure.
type of thing. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
keeps that continuity together
Yeah, it
for
keeps
you.
the continuity for me.
But she's 16 in this book.
Yes.
And it's her... I thought it was interesting they have like a naming ceremony that they talk about
the
early
day of
on.
declaration
Which,
or
basically
whatever it
like,
is.
well, we've adopted her and here's like she is now one of the Organas.
Yeah, did we ever know that the Organas just kind of openly say, oh yeah, that's our daughter and she's adopted?
I don't know.
I don't recall it.
I feel like it's at some point like that's a fairly well-known thing, right?
Okay. I
'Cause
guess
even,
I always...
even Leia knows of her.
No, yeah,
mother
she
and
does,
stuff,
but
right?
I always assumed they kind of, to sell the deception, like posed her as their daughter, but I might be incorrect about that.
No, but one thing too in this book, and it was later on
Yeah.
into the book too that I like is, one point that they kind of bring up a few times throughout is that Bria, her mother, Bale's wife, has a pomonode in her chest that glows, and they keep talking about her accident and stuff like that too, where it seems to have been like heart/lungs, like things gave out, had problems, and they replace it with like a bioengineered mechanical element that can keep her alive. And I thought it was interesting. They said about that, and then when we get closer towards the end, it's described as like, well, this occurred when she was younger.
Yeah.
And in order to keep her body from going through any more strain, we decided to not have kids, and that Bale and Bria would adopt.
Sure.
So it seemed to be a thing where it's like it's fairly well known that she had this injury and that they were going to go for an adoption.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of covers a lot of that where it's like, well, this was what they planned and what they announced, and here's where they went with it. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, I don't know how often I would have thought about how many people know that she's a adopted princess.
Gaming Walrus says in chat, in Obi-Wan Kenobi, her cousin mentioned that she wasn't a real Organa. And yeah, thank you so much. I completely forgot about that. It definitely is a thing. It's just not something I really consider too much, as this book kind of makes you consider, primarily because of one major character cameo thing that happens in the book that shocked me.
Oh, okay.
Like
Sure.
crazy. And it's actually towards kind of the first half of the book, too.
Yeah, you're looking at chapter 12.
Yeah. I know that you have much more thorough notes than me.
I tried. So this time I tried to like write notes per chapter in a way to try to help myself retain and remember different things that happened throughout the book and stuff too.
Yeah.
So no, in the very beginning, we set up for her to basically become heir to the throne. Like she has name Organa, but she doesn't have the heir to the throne aspect yet. And she has to go through.
She has to earn it.
Her mind, body, and heart challenges, trials.
Yeah, sure.
Which she stipulates is going to be a mountain climb up to this peak in Alderaan, which her mother also did whenever she was vying to be princess and heir to the throne. She also was joining the apprentice legislature, which I thought was interesting. It kind of it's like a youngling model UN, something along those lines for like people in the Senate.
Padme kind of talks a little bit about something like that with Anakin, right? She talks about how she met a boy, and was it the apprentice legislator then?
It might have been.
It was
something
some type
similar.
of like junior politics, government, something. You know, a debate club or mock government. But she mentioned something like that, so it kind of matches in that regard.
Yeah.
With Paulo. Anakin's like, all right, enough. Or something like that.
And then she also wanted to have like some humanitarian aid that she was going to cover as well.
Yes.
So that was like her body, her heart, and her mind were all going to be with these. The other main thing that I had from that is I just thought it was neat that they had a Terrace mention at one point.
Absolutely.
In that chapter.
They mentioned this is actually it's a reference to Nice Old Republic because Terrace is the first planet that you're on in that game. It's also a Rogue One cameo as well because Tierna Pamlo is the senator from Terrace. She's one of the senators there saying, we can't go and fight the Empire there on Yavin at the end of that movie.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah. As is Vasp Vaspar, who appears as well.
Vasp Vaspar.
And the only reason I know Vasp's name is because his actor's name is Fars Fars.
Fars Fars.
And they were just like,
Wait,
Fars Fars, that's funny.
The actor's name?
The actor's name is Fars Fars, so they called him Vasp Vasper.
Okay.
I was like, that's kind of funny. But he's another senator. I can't remember exactly where he's from. I think he's from like a sector, not just one planet.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
Another rebellion character that we see in Rogue One that's kind of like littered in here. Yeah.
I didn't catch that one, but that's cool. I like finding those little connections.
Yeah, me too.
She did I think
Pamela was in Bad Batch as well. Bad Batch, I haven't rewatched a lot of Bad Batch like I need to, so I haven't retained as much information.
Gotcha. Pamela was in Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I'd have to see again, but I forget where it was.
Yeah.
But I thought it was one of my favorite things, not one of my favorite things, but one of the things I liked early on was she first starts her humanitarian adventure, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've never heard it in outside circles. Typically, the ship from the very beginning of A New Hope, we would talk about, and they don't really say the name very often in movies and stuff,
Yep.
but they said it a lot in this book.
They did.
And I don't know if they said it wrong or if I've always said it wrong, but every time they said it, it caught me.
Okay.
Because they called it the Tantive 4.
Yeah.
And I've always heard it's just the Tantive 4.
Oh.
And I was like, is it Tantive? Have I been saying it wrong all this time? Or is this a different pronunciation?
Tantive or Tantive?
Yeah, the Tantive.
Tantive.
Because I think it's just Tantiv, right? Tantive? Tantive? Like I don't know. But I every time I heard it, I was like, it bothered me. And I wanted to know if I was right, if I was wrong, which way it was supposed to be. It's one of those like, well, I've only ever read it and then talked to my friends about it. And I feel like whenever we've talked, we called it Tantive. So I don't know which way it's supposed to be. I'm assuming V is the way it's supposed to be, but it's pronounced Tantive, says Irish Nexus. But I just never heard it that way. So that was one of the things where as it was going through, I was like, all right, okay, keep that in mind. I just try to go by it. But
we could call it the Sunrider.
The Sunrider?
It's a very obscure reference in that there used to be in the old canon, before we were able to cut all this stuff off and start anew, there was a weird confusion about which ship is the Tantive 4 versus like the Tantive 3 versus like I think it was called the Sunrider or something like that, where like something happened, somebody at Lucasfilm gave an answer and it was the wrong answer.
Really?
And like the identity of that ship got like lost in the mix at some point.
Huh. Did not know that. Okay.
Yeah.
But she uses the Tantive or Tantive to go to Wobani.
To Wobani.
And
to a beautiful Wobani where nothing bad ever happens.
Well, it's pretty rough and taking over and
Yeah.
like she's trying to give people food and
Yeah.
people are struggling. I liked her creative way of trying to save people. Was like we're only allowed to leave with people that we have like documented as workers on the ship.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how many people could we fit on the ship to work for us? Like 100. It's like, okay. And they went and found 100 people who were struggling, starving, old, sick, and fit in jobs to get them on the ship, to get them off world, to go and try to help them and stuff. And
it was a very nice gesture.
Yeah, I thought it was a neat like loophole of her thinking through with it. But then I think like it wasn't great, but it was nice for her at the point.
There's a reason that's not necessarily the action that's being taken by the loose collection of rebels right now.
Yeah,
because it gathers attention.
Yeah, it does. So, but no, that was all the early parts. I thought it was a nice introduction to Leia, getting to know her heart, like her mindset and stuff too. And we've seen her in Kenobi and stuff, and how like almost fearless she can be. And I think this book did a good job of kind of like building upon that too. Of like, here's how fearless she can be and what she goes through and whatnot. So.
And I mean, she's a young girl, and there's a good-looking dude in this too.
There is, yeah. When they start doing their Prentice legislature, we meet a lot of people.
We do.
One
a
of
lot of people.
There's a lot of people in that grouping. Like Sam, who's like a snake.
Yeah, which I always try to look up like the spellings of characters' names. Sam's spelling is SSSAMM. Sam, because he's a serpent. You know?
Okay.
And his last name is Ashen. ASHSSSEN.
All right. So we had Sam.
Yeah.
We had Kier Damati.
Kier, yeah, I think it's Damati,
which turns to become a love interest for Leia.
Yeah, he's a resident from Alderaan, in the youth legislative thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's very Alderaan centric.
He is. Very much so. There's a few others too. There was that one guy from Coruscant, Chris. The last name was Chrisani or something. Chaslin
Stevis.
Yeah.
Stevis, I think. Yep.
Chaslin. Harp, I think, was another one. A few others, but then there was also Amelin. Holdo.
Amelin Holdo.
And I was like, oh, Holdo.
Yeah. Now
that's cool.
with this being like the build up to The Last Jedi, this book came out before The Last Jedi. So a lot of people were introduced to Vice Admiral Holdo in this book and were able to inform that character a lot when they watched it the first time. I honestly would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that it brought a lot of interesting things that I never thought about Laura Dern's performance.
Yeah, I want to rewatch the movie, having finished this and seeing how this Holdo kind of plays out to the end of the book. But no, I had a lot of fun with her.
She's very
younger mindset, and I don't know. I kept on thinking of almost like a very nature. There's astrological stuff that's tossed in with this. There's
very
very
Luna Lovegood
nature, Luna Lovegood, something like that. Almost like I want to say almost like a hippie nature kind of mind is what I kept thinking about. Just kind of like getting close to nature.
You can show a character's strength without showing aggression.
Yeah,
like that's what she is. I really enjoyed the way that a lot of like her kind of like sayings, a lot of her these are turns of phrases, but she uses those turns of phrases to transmit very complicated ideas. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, and it makes sense why I think that she's an unconventional but vital part of the rebellion later. You know?
I like that Leia, as we get more and more into the book, she's like, I think I'm beginning to speak Holdo. Like, I'm understanding what she means.
Yeah, I'm starting to speak Holdo,
Because there's something that they have where they talk about, mirrors bend reflections or something like that. And then she's like, what? And she's like, wait, we could do this to bend the, And I was like, oh, like she had the idea and she just said it. I love when there's a point where Holdo's like, are we talking about the things we don't talk about? And she's like,
that was funny, yeah. I like the part where she's like, did we find crime? But yeah, she's a very young character in the book.
Yeah. But I enjoyed her a lot in this book, and it really did kind of add. I kept trying to think about Holdo in the movie and trying to like connect these two characters, and I was like, it's kind of cool. And they talk about how bright and vibrant she is, and a lot of things she wears and everything, and
yeah, absolutely.
So it was definitely cool to have her, and she was like a fun sidekick to Leia in some different elements of it. I'll get to another one of her parts later on that I really liked.
Okay.
But what did you think of? We talked about Holdo. We thought of Holdo, but we already had experience with them. What did you think of Kier?
Of Kier?
Yeah,
I like Kier. I mean, he's a little, it's a youth novel, so he doesn't have like the most depth from a character. But I did like what his presence brought about, which is one of my favorite scenes in the book between Leia and Brea. I think that's how you say Brea's name. Brea Organa, the Queen of Alderaan. In that, they're kind of discussing that Leia has a love interest, and Brea has this line about how, like, I kind of was hoping, like, your first, love interest would be a little bit more of a bad boy.
Yeah.
He's a little too put together for being your first one. Yeah. You need a little bit more of a, and she uses the word scoundrel.
Yeah.
Which I will forever inform that when I'm watching and Leia's looking for a word for Han. Now when she says scoundrel, that word is a lot more loaded, right? Because it's exactly what Mom was talking about.
Yeah. No, it was, I did like that, and I thought of that too. Yeah. I definitely couldn't, like, not think about that and, like, the future of Leia. Same thing with, there's a similar conversation. It might have been the same time when talking about I think they were going to a dance, and there's all this stuff with like rebellion, the Empire, like stuff that's heavy, weighing on Leia
heavy.
more so.
Very heavy for preteens.
Yeah, and Bria has this moment where she's like, you should dance when you can because you don't know, what you're gonna have. But within all that, she's also like, go spend time with your friends.
Yeah,
your home will always be here.
Yeah,
and I'm like, how it's such foreshadowing, but like, how would you expect like, well, at some point this planet will be entirely blown up, It's like,
dude, I know. The last line of the book hits hard.
What's the very last
line? The last lines of the book is like, but at least she has her friends and her family and her planet, and she always will. And then it just ended, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where that's kind of heavy, and you're like, well, she doesn't have that, but this build up that she has, learning all these experiences she has, like, I don't know, it really worked really well. I like this book a lot. I feel like I didn't have as much issue going through this one as I have
very
other books sometimes.
Easy to,
maybe because it's a youth book too, but
sure.
But no, maybe it's also because of Leia, and I'm like, and also Bail's just in this, and I love Bail Organa, great. And I don't feel like you ever get enough Bail Organa in like movies and different elements.
You don't, but you get to see a little bit of a different side to him here. You get to see him stress, and treat people around him not like Jimmy Smits, I imagine, does all the time, which is as a gentleman.
Sure. I mean, there is one whenever like, sure, he's stressed, but there's a Senate like summoning.
Yeah.
Right? They've summoned all of the Senate. It's a mandatory meeting, and Leia and Kier go, and they're sitting there, perhaps a little too close together.
Yeah.
And Bail Organa comes in, and I love how he looks at me and he raises an eyebrow at me, like almost like mocking, like, "Ooh, what's going on over here?" And I picture Jimmy Smits doing that, and I'm like, I love that. But at the same time, he has this element of like, something terrible has either happened or is going to happen. This is not going to be a good meeting. Yeah. And that's when you learn about, I think it's Christophsis. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That these people are traitors and rebelling, and we've destroyed a whole city.
Yeah.
And like, oh, okay, Tarkin. Thank you.
I just really, Bail's anger in this is really interesting because we so rarely get to see him prioritize the things he loves versus his duty to those things, right? And here, like, he just, like, he'll put Leia in the way he feels about her. Like, obviously, he cares a lot about her, but, like, he starts to prioritize something over her. And then, like, she is such a force that she forces herself back to that priority list.
Sure.
But not in a way that takes the rebellion out, but, cares for it as well. I just really liked that evolution for what we saw here. It, the resolution was kind of quick with it, but I really did enjoy it.
Yeah.
And Nexus also said, like, the last line of the book is, "And the Empire could never take them away."
That
is the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was sad to a otherwise fun book.
It was.
I mean,
you say
it's not all happy.
No, I mean, but like, you have moments where like their first like test as like the legislatures or whatever they're doing is to climb this mountain, and then the person that took them up it is like, all right, I'm gonna sled back down. Good luck getting back.
Good luck.
If you don't make it, you're kicked out. And they start doing that, and I think it was Harp that gets hurt, and then the team like splits off into two. There's the team who stays with the person that's hurt, trying to get them down the mountain, and the other team who's like, no, we're going anyway, and you're not gonna slow us down. But through that, between Leia and everyone working together, Holdo comes up with like a plan that Leia didn't understand right away, and then like, oh, make this tent into a sled, and then Sam like fits themselves into this thing and makes the walls, and they slide down this mountain, and I was like, well, that's really cool, and they beat the other team down there, and like, there's those elements where it's like, well, this is trouble, but then it's some fun, you know. Same thing happened with the Kier thing. I really like that, which had it was a fun moment there. They're like on the side of the mountain, right? And Kier's like equipment broke, his field generator, which I thought was an interesting thing.
Those are cool things, like little like safety nets. Almost,
I don't ever remember anything with field generators before, and I was like, that's a cool idea. Where it's sometimes you could be like, well, that's how someone lived a far jump or fall or something, but it depends if they have them very often.
Personal shields have been a thing. Like we mentioned personal shields in the Padme book recently. When you play Jedi Outcast, you have to refill your health and your shields.
Yeah,
that type of thing.
But the moment there I thought was really cool because you had, and it might have been, was it the only moment where Leia has a like tapping into the Force type of moment to save Kier on this mountainside. And I was like, well, that's really cool because it's not a thing that she tends to use a lot, but it should still be there. And this is just one of those moments where it's like she's pushing away her fear. Everything seems clear, and she does what she has to do kind of thing. Yeah. And maybe that's just a lot of like how Leia kind of operates, and she just pushes the fear away, but she doesn't realize what she's doing as she's growing up.
I get what you mean. We don't often see Leia intuitively use the Force like we do with Luke. Yeah. Right? But Luke tends to, if we compare their backgrounds, the support systems they had, how desperate one might feel, how much full of hope one might be, those are factors, I suppose, that can affect you more or not with the Force. But she tends to be more capable on her own. Yeah. So you never really feel like, man, it'd be great if we had some, hand of God come down and touch this event.
Well, she even survives the mudslide.
She does.
Just from using her field generator and just thinking on her feet.
Yeah, she does.
So I like the quick-witted, like, figuring things out really quick and finding a way through. It does a good job with that.
Agreed.
Which, she figured out through... I like this a lot. Like I said about liking Bail Organa a lot, but through doing her studies at the legislature and stuff, she looks into an attack on, like, a frigate that occurs around Wobani and tracks down suspicious activity, and it leads her to Crate. Yeah. And I was like, Crate, oh, it's so cool to have them kind of like loop in this, because we know there's an old base there. We didn't really get a reason as to...
Old rebellion base.
Of what happened with this base, or why it's abandoned, who was here before. But we find out that they get to Crate, and Bail Organa has been here with a group, and this has been one of their earlier bases that they have set up. And I was like, well, that's really cool. But it's
specifically like a strike force, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's been slowly building up like an actual, like, the rebel fleet in a way, and preparing for war, because there's only so much you can do in this legal, like, capacity to where the Emperor's not just going to come down and be like, oh, they're against us? Okay, target them, make them the enemy, now they're gone, you know? But that, I think, also shows really well what you were talking about, where there's an element of he's afraid for Leia. Why is Leia here? Let's make sure you're safe. But then it flips to being like, wait, how did you figure out where we were? And it's like, don't tell me, I don't care about anything else. How'd you find out? Because if you found out, anyone could find out.
Anybody can find out. Yeah.
And it's that priority list, right? Where it's like, when it's about him and her, that's where it is. But when it starts being about all the other lives that he's kind of like in charge of, it shifts. And I think that's why he struggles so hard with Leia being involved. There's a point when, like, him and Bria are trying to decide how involved Leia should be, and Organa Bail is against it and doesn't want to be a part of that. And I think that's wise, because, like, he cares for her and he wants her to be safe, but when it comes to, like, a whole bunch of lives versus hers, it puts him in a difficult position where he's like, I don't want to sacrifice Leia, but I have to. All of the rebellion in the galaxy versus just my daughter is a very hard decision for him to make, and he doesn't want to be put there.
Yeah. There definitely is a feeling of either characters appealing to hope or just hoping that hope will come later, because they often will be like, well, if this happens, and it's very likely to, we'll all be dead. And they all kind of just like, we have no plan for that. We'll just hope for the best. Yeah. That's all we can do.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And I don't think that they're too used to that with how careful they are. Yeah.
No, I agree. The idea of hope. I mean, and that's a good theme throughout most of Star Wars and stuff too. But it
goes throughout fantasy stories, and Star Wars is a fantasy show.
Yeah, even
movie.
Lord of the Rings has both now.
Everything, comics,
video games,
stage play. I'm sure
stage play,
theme park,
Star Wars the musical. Man. But I did enjoy getting to see, like, here's how Leia discovers. Because, like, in Ahsoka, right? Or even what we see in Kenobi. But the Ahsoka book, you visit Bail for a little bit, and there's a little Leia there, and he talks about, like, how happy he is for her to not be involved with things and, trying to keep this away from her. But at some point, she's going to find out. Yeah. And you meet Mon Mothma here and some others, and they're like, you told your daughter about this? And it's like, no, she's just smart, and she was bound to figure it out at some point. Like, we can't hide it from her forever. And, like, her and Kier are, like, crawling through, like, air ducts or whatever they're doing, trying to, like, listen in on what's happening and what's being said. And it's that sneaky Leia kind of aspect that I feel like she would have getting into mischief and all that kind of stuff. But I enjoyed the parental aspect of trying to keep her away from it. But then Leia being who she is, where it's like, well, that's not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Eventually, they're just like, all right, we'll rest all of our hope on you.
Yeah.
That's what we
Yeah.
have to do.
That's what they had to do, right? So,
But there was never a question if they can trust her. It was really just like, is she old enough?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it felt.
Yeah. And then the part that you were talking about, probably in around chapter 11, we had Onoam, right?
Onoam.
The trip to Onoam.
Onoam, yes.
Where they met Queen Dalney. Dalney.
Mm-hmm. And a certain Imperial Moff.
Well, yeah, we talked about this before too, because I forget what it was in Badonkong, I think. Where we were like, oh yeah, Moff Panaka. I'm like, he became a Moff. It's like, oh yeah, you know, like we talked about how he went in. Was which book was it? Was that in a Padme book? I think it was in a Padme book where he became closer and closer to Palpatine, and you know, was there on Naboo, which was his home world. So he became Moff of Naboo.
I'm pretty sure because it's
governor.
something that I had found when I was doing studying for Star Wars trivia. I'm pretty sure at one point you were like, I can't wait to see more Panaka, and I remember being like, we might, and it might not be great next time we see him.
Sure.
But I had no idea this would happen.
No, yeah.
So we meet the current Queen of Naboo. It's awesome to have Princess Leia and, you know, Queen of Naboo Dalmay speak and have a royal conversation, but also one just filled with subtext that no characters except for Korsh Panaka understand. Because, you know, Captain Panaka, we know that he spent a long time protecting the queens of Naboo. Mm-hmm. He probably spent an even larger amount of time trying to figure out which one was Padme.
Sure.
I bet you he knows her face
right?
really well. I bet you he can see, like, oh, that's her set of eyes, or that's her nose,
that one's her.
So Korsh Panaka takes one look at Leia and is like, that's Padme's daughter. He doesn't say it.
No,
but
he asks a bunch of questions
he
about
asked
it, right?
so many. He's like, this is impossible. It can't happen. But wait, you're adopted?
Yeah, you look familiar.
Yeah. When were you born? Who's your father?
That tracks pretty close, you know? And I bet having a Queen of Naboo right next to her didn't help either, right? Because even if you just saw her and were talking to her otherwise, maybe you would, but wait, Queen of Naboo and her. Wait, if I put... Oh, wait.
Yeah. I just imagine if Panaka is, which I'm assuming he definitely is, if he's in on the idea that she always has handmaidens that look just like him, if that were me, I'd be playing the game of like, which one's Padme? And I'd be trying to figure it out. And I feel like that would...
I won't get tricked.
Yeah,
we'll trick everyone else.
Exactly.
I'm going to know who I
just feel like that assumption I'm making, like, made him ready for this meeting in that I can find Padme's face anywhere, even in the face of her secret daughter. Yeah.
And it felt like he was going to go and talk to someone about, what was it? I'm going to go talk to Palpatine and let him know what a amazing daughter the people of Alderaan have, or something like that, right? Like, it was like,
he's a Palpatine loyalist.
He's going to tell Palpatine this is going to be bad.
It was going to be bad, and then everything exploded.
Yes.
And that's, I mean, it's no small feat to kill a movie character.
No.
And Moff Panaka is no more, and he supposedly never got that
message off. I don't think so. And
I guess the movies couldn't happen if that was the case.
Yeah. And it felt like too, Bria had the same concerns because she really wanted to know what Panaka said and what was going on, and like there was I don't know, just like a concern of like. Are you sure he didn't message anyone? What exactly did he say? You know, stuff like that. And I imagine Leia's just like, this is really weird. What is this about? And doesn't get told exactly what's going on. But I understand why Bria is concerned.
Me too.
Also, I thought it was interesting that like that was one of the higher ups that they were like, we thought maybe could have been a contact or someone. But there's also such a loyalty that he has that I don't know if it would have worked out.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice to hear about. Like when he's saying, hey, I'm one of the good Imperials is pretty much what was happening. You want to believe it. You definitely do, but I don't think you can be a Moff and be unaware of the terrible things happening around you.
Right? I don't think so either. So thank goodness for the partisans, I guess, in that situation, huh?
Yeah. Could you tell which partisan it was? I don't think I could either, but I don't know. I was just trying to I was just curious because I had to memorize all those dudes' names.
Sure, yeah.
But, yeah, I love any time, like Saw Gerrera is evoked, it's always just the rest of the rebellion being like, oh god.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And Leia really like looks at like, oh, Saw, that's what he does, but that's not what my parents do. And then slowly learns more and more of like they're gearing up for war.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, you have Kier being like, they shouldn't do this on Alderaan. This is terrible. Like what happened on Christophsis could happen here, and starts really getting worried about a lot of that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is probably my favorite scene, Eric.
Oh, okay.
So
we haven't gotten to mine.
No,
not yet.
This is. I think we're at the right spot here.
Okay.
So there is a dinner party.
Yep.
Is this your favorite scene, the dinner party?
Are you going to talk about our boy, the other Moff?
The other Moff?
Okay,
he shows
yes,
up in it, yeah.
It's my favorite scene.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite scene of it all. One, like, during the dinner party, too, there was also a conversation at some point about Bail Organa in a hostage situation.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's that Cad Bane episode. I remember that. That's
hostage
cool.
crisis.
Yeah, so I was just glad that they kind of, like, put a little nods to things like that happened back in the Clone Wars and stuff. But, no, the dinner scene is it's a trick to be able to like have people over but then talk about rebellion things.
Yeah.
But then someone walks in unexpectedly and it's Tarkin. And then everyone's like, "Oh no, what do we do?" And he's like, "Oh, my carrion spike."
Yep, the carry-on spike.
It's breaking down, so we parked here to get it fixed. And I'm sorry,
I
but
was just in the neighborhood.
Let me join you guys. And that whole scene I thought was so good, and the way things played out was so much fun.
I thought it was hilarious because they're like all sitting there like it's just tense as hell. Like, what do we do? Like, I get it. You're sleeping with my man.
It was.
Ah, you fucking.
What do you mean? No, I'm not sleeping with you.
And it went so like trailer park, like yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And Tarkin is like cringing.
Like, what was it? Like, my husband goes to Chandrilla a whole bunch, doesn't he? Like, it's like, what do you say? Why don't you just come out and say it?
Tarkin's like, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about during dinner.
Yeah. I like, and they said that what really set him over the edge was Leia started bawling and going into tears. And he's like, this is not appropriate.
Yeah.
Look what you've done to your daughter. I will be leaving now.
Yeah.
I will. I like how he's like, I'll give you a pass because I shouldn't have been here and you took me in when, I wasn't invited. But had this been like an actual meeting, this would not be appropriate.
I loved it. I just love the weaponization of drama and cringe.
Yeah.
Tarkin's just like, oh, God, not while I'm here. Oh, man.
But that's
I gotta go.
That's the moment there, too, when they were like, Leia, it's not real. She goes, I know. He's like, wait, your daughter knows you let her know about this stuff? It's like, we couldn't stop her. But that moment there was just, I loved it so much.
It was just very funny. And I'll agree. It's probably my favorite of the entire book.
Yeah. I think I just love it because, it's that political thing where they have to trust who they can trust. And even later on, there's like a member of their group that they were like, I think he might be talking to the Empire. Yeah. It's like, well, we'll paint him out and trick him with what we've got. But there's such this chess game that like Mon Mothma and the Organas and whoever else they can kind of put into there that like we have to be really careful with who we trust and then work our ways around making it seem like we are just in the open and as innocent and open as we can be. And that was such a great way of like
how do we look like we don't care about things while caring about them a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's talk about things that no way Tarkin would care about. You're sleeping with him.
You're banging Mon Mothma.
I really enjoyed that. So, but yeah. That was probably my favorite scene in the whole book, just because of having those characters having to do that.
Yeah.
And like even Bale's like, honey, not now or not here, And I liked how they described. I think it was Bria who was like, just come. Like my mom was like, just come out and say it. Quit being afraid. And like she stands up very like queen-like and and just like has a very like appropriate thing, but it's still being like, he spends a lot of time in Chandrilla, and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
We also we were talking about some characters with like Kier and love interest and that kind of stuff. There was like it makes sense too, this being like a youth adult novel kind of thing, like a young adult novel. Like there's a fairly steamy moment in the book that like is also fairly tame at the same time.
It's tame. It's
right?
tame enough. Yeah.
I thought it was really
it's Star Wars appropriate, I think.
Yeah. I've Leia's always had like her buns and different hair things and stuff done, and I thought it was interesting to learn that.
Buns.
I don't remember ever hearing that Alderaan has like this. What's the word I want to say? There's like a
And there's Star Puffs in universe, by the way.
Star Puffs.
Is it the name of her hairstyle?
The buns?
Yep.
That's called Star Puffs?
Star Puffs.
Okay.
Yep.
But no, the why it's transitions is stuck in my head, and that's not the word I want. Traditions.
Tradition.
The tradition of the braids, where like there's different meanings between them, but one of the most intimate things you can do is have someone else take your braids out. And there's a moment where like there's a dance going on, and Kier and Leia are there, and Leia's like, "Hey, why don't we get out of here?" He's like, are we supposed to? Can we do that? He's like, "Yeah, let's just go." And they go to the gardens, and there's a moment there where he pulls out one pin and like looks at her like, what would you think? And she's like, turns around, lets him take out the rest and stuff. And I was like, this is a intimate scene, but it doesn't.
Woo.
Yeah,
Reading,
but like I forget what the last part was, and it's like, and they they continue to enjoy their night, or whatever it was, and I'm like, ooh, what happened here?
Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
So, but I thought it was
Fade to black.
I thought it was
Tommy Wiseau couldn't do.
Yeah, I thought it was a good way of like also introducing some Alderaan lore and tradition and stuff like that too, but also having like Leia has a love interest before. It makes sense that she would, and here's
Han had a love interest before. We saw that.
Yeah.
Daenerys.
Were they both the same name?
What?
What was Han's girl's name? What was her name? Kira, right? And what's this guy's name? Kier. It's like the same name.
Damn, that's real close. Huh. Kier was just a Crimson Dawn secret agent.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
It's pretty close, yeah.
I enjoyed. Did you catch the? I would assume Millennium Falcon nod.
Yeah, they said a YT freighter.
But they also said like it looks really cruddy and like probably could get some work if we did.
Could have been.
And I was like, is that the Falcon? Is that what that is?
There was actually some pretty secret cameos in this.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure Krennic appeared at one point.
Krennic did?
They said a guy in a white suit.
I remember them talking about a white suit.
And I was just like, I'm pretty sure he's like buying stuff he's buying spare Death Star parts. Yo, got any Death Star parts?
I don't remember that part.
That's him.
You guys spare Death Star? Huh.
And then, they also, they all but name R2. I don't know why they don't just call him R2, but R2 appeared briefly.
He was scanning a planet for her and stuff.
But they never
information.
said R2. I was like, say R2, come on.
Maybe she didn't know what the droid's name was.
Maybe.
But with the moment she was going to try to find a ship, I like she gets called into like Tarkin's office and goes and talks to him, and the whole moment is like a test for her, right? And he's trying to like see where she lies and kind of like hinting that her parents are going to be dead.
Yeah.
But then also like names a planet or a system to try to see if he can get any information from it. But before all that, I like that she's like, all right, go in, be proud, and no. He wants innocent and demure. Yeah. It's like, okay, we're going to do that. That's what we're going to go in for. Yeah. And I was thinking about whenever he's looking for the rebel base, and when she tells him the truth of where the rebel base, it's like Dantooine. It's on Dantooine. Like she's so much more like this moment where she's quiet and looking down and everything they described about like this is what he will believe this. That's exactly what she does there, and he believes that she lied to us. Like that moment.
No, you're right.
Like
because at least in the book, we get to go inside of her mind, and like she is putting on performances, which kind of informs like one of those things that you kind of you wave away because it's a movie and who cares. But it's like Carrie Fisher uses a British accent sometimes. Governor talking, like she like falls into like a performance sometimes whenever she's speaking, depending on who she's speaking to. Yeah. So it kind of like informs that a little tiny bit.
Sure. I just thought it was neat that like the thing that we're thinking about here is that this is what he will like and believe. Yeah. And that's what she falls into later there when she lies to him then as well. Yeah. And I was like, that's just kind of neat. I don't know if they were intending that, but that's how I took it. And I was like, that's kind of cool.
I wonder how openly hostile she is to him.
Sure.
Like between now and episode 4.
Yeah, because whenever you're like, I recognize you're a foul stench, and I was brought on board.
Like she goes hard. Like she cuts deep.
Okay.
Yeah, if that was on Twitter, people would be ratioing it.
Yeah, like you would figure that she'd come in and be like, Tarkin, what's going on? This is a mistake. Yeah. I was on this. But she goes hard at him. So, I wonder their experiences together in between there.
Yeah.
Which is,
how old is she? Nothing you can do about it.
18 in New Hope?
19.
19?
I believe so.
Okay, so we have like 3 years between like this book and there then. Yeah. Which isn't that much, but You
I
know,
don't know, fact check me on that, but I think both Luke and Leia are 19 in that.
19. But yeah, I like that. She then has to call her mom and Mon Mothma, tell them that she's here's the information I found. They know about this system. They're gonna go. Dad's in trouble. No one can go. Only you can go.
Were you worried that she was just going to get followed by Moff Tarkin's agents? There was a part of me that was just like, what if this is the plan?
The
Like,
thing,
tell her a couple things, see if she freaks out, follow her.
yeah, the things I was worried about the most was like, okay, I don't know what happens with Kier.
Yeah.
I was like, Kier is not in the future that I know of.
Sure.
But will he be gone?
You were
Will
thinking
he
of
be-
like maybe a straight up betrayal by Kier.
Yeah, I'm like, will he be betrayed, a betrayer? Will he be sacrificed to save Leia? You know, something like that. And I was like, I don't know what route we're going to go with this. So that was my main concern kind of going through this part here.
Okay.
What'd you think of the people she had take her on the ship? Like, Holdo gets a hold of
the Chow Huttons.
Huttons.
They're like a fish species. Akko Quinto is their leader. Yeah, I liked it. They, obviously she saves them in the beginning of the book. She brings medicine, I believe, right? And they won't accept it. But she's like, you got to. It's like, look, if you trade a favor, then we can't accept it because we don't take charity. We help each other. That's what they do. And by the end of the book, like, Leia, he's kind of like, now you know us.
Yeah.
This is what we do. I loved him. I thought they were great.
Yeah, I like it too, because it was like, we owe you a favor, we will repay the favor. And he's like, no, I gotta let you know, your people could die. It's like, you think? Like, you betray our honor by not trusting our favor. And he's like, no, I just need you to know this. He's like, fine, we're still gonna do it, and there's gonna be 5 more ships there.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's such an honorable, like, we will do this.
I liked him so much. I was like, I gotta look them up on Wikipedia and see if I can learn more about him.
I looked up a picture of them, like the little, like, frog-like looking
frog
kind of
dudes,
people. Not like the...
I won't even say frog dudes, because the Wikipedia article talks about how throughout their life they have 5 genders. And depending on where they are in their life stage, they refer to their past or future by different pronouns depending on that gender. I'm like, that's really interesting to think about.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
it's
cool.
just part of their society and biology, I suppose.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Chow Hutta sounds familiar, but I didn't recognize anything specifically with that. So
I
just thought it
kept
was
hearing
kinda cool.
Hutta.
Hutta?
Like hut. And I was saying, Chow Hutta, now Hutta, oh no.
Gotcha.
But no,
yeah.
it's not.
It's double D's, I think, right?
Frog people.
Froggy people. Yeah.
Double D's.
But not like Pong Krell
Mm-hmm.
or Dex. Not those kind of frog people.
No.
All right, and then like we're towards the end of the book.
Yeah, we are.
I'm glad that Bale kind of came around. I mean, I figured he would, but he came around and being like, I've been fighting this, but your age needs to be involved. Your age is your generation is the ones who are going to be taking over from us, and you need to know what you're fighting for, as opposed to like some of the other younger kids who just, like, if they just fall in line with the Empire, then they're going to believe their parents are betrayers, and they're not going to go with that, right? So you really do need to involve the next generation, but try to keep them understanding. I love that they talked about, like, you can join when you can lie. Like, that was kind of like if you can't lie and do that, then it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And we see different elements in this book of, like, the dinner party, of that exact thing being what we need, of Leia not giving away anything when Tarkin says one word, that all he's looking for is, do you recognize this?
We've read Tarkin now, so we know just how good he is at that. Leia has to be better.
Yeah.
She has to be so good, he needs to think she's not playing.
Yeah. But by the end, he knows that she is.
Yeah.
Like, he has some kind of comment. I didn't write it down, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But he had a comment, and I love getting in Leia's head and being able to be like, he knows.
Yeah.
He's this comment is meaning this, this, like.
Yep.
So I like that. But no, Bale was glad to bring Leia and get her involved. I loved in that moment too when she shows up and she's calling him, and he's like, Leia, what are you doing here? It's like, they're all coming. It's like, get on board right now.
Get on board, 10 minutes.
Like, I'm not gonna. We will argue or whatever later. Now is about the rebellion.
I think the line is like, Bail Organa is the kind of person that knows when it's time to argue and when it's not. And I'm like, oh, I love those people.
Yeah,
They're never in TV shows or movies.
No, no. There's so many TV shows where, like, that's exactly the opposite. It's like, this is not the time for this discussion.
Yeah.
Talk about who cheated on who later. There's a bear chasing you, or whatever it is. Like, don't do that. And then my favorite Holdo moment happened after going and saving the rebellion.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this part or not. But
the
astrology
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought that was awesome.
I loved
Took me
it.
off guard too.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did for me too.
Uh-huh.
No, Kier has arrived. His whole plan was to take information about this rebellion fleet, give it to the Empire, and try to void Alderaan of any blame or whatever, and kind of like just look, we're all fine. Our planet is safe. We talked about how he was like very Alderaan, like heavy on like
Alderaan first.
Yeah. So that's what his goal was, and there is such a. I kind of like the way the book did the Kier stuff because you have the element of him being like, here's the stick, take this, promise me you'll do this, and she goes, I promise. I'm like, dang man, Leia just lies right to him and stuff.
Lie.
And I was like, good. I mean, you got to save the rebellion. I understand that.
And he can die in peace too.
Yeah. But then they bring him in and they do the thing about like the body falls and everything becomes real. And like that part, I got sad when Leia got sad. And I was like, oh man. Like it was done really well. So like I got that element of being like, yeah, good. You have to do this. It's in the wrong. But then I got the other element of it when they had the body on the floor thing. And I was like, So I like that a lot. But then Holdo had a transmission that came in from another Imperial, and I thought it was so good. Where she's like, "Hey, y'all, how you doing?" Like, just
so disarming, so annoying.
Yeah, it really was.
He's just like he's just trying to get. They use cringe as a weapon in this so much.
They did.
But yeah, there's this great thing where he's like, "Hey, we did a scan of your ship, and we're detecting signatures just based on the radiation." That you've been in places that you should not be.
Yeah.
And because she's really into astrology and how heavenly bodies can affect her lives, she also
the ionization of different like,
to
stars
know that
and
she
stuff.
has to know real science too. And she pulls it out immediately. And Leia says, like, I don't know. She gives like a certain amount of time. I never would have thought of that.
How'd you think about it so far?
Yeah.
She named another system that had similar ionization and played off of like, I was there studying astrology. What it's like when you. And she goes on a thing. Was like, did you know that if you're from this planet, you actually have this astrological sign, but if you're from this planet, at the same time, you'd have this astrological sign. And the guy like, thanks. You know what? We're just gonna let you go. Yep. Just be careful next time. He's like, but you don't want to chat with me. I had so much fun with that element of Holdo, just having like a great lying moment, but picking out something that was like, this is very specific and really helped everything too.
Yeah, no, that was really cool.
So I think it was like Sheely or something like that was like some kind of system that she mentioned. So.
Something like that. She calls him very virile. That's right, Nexus. She says something like that. Yes, and you sound very like virile.
Oh yeah, they
and
said
like
that,
his second captain's like
he like laughs and then coughs it out.
What?
Like,
Shut up! Hangs up on her.
Yeah,
damn kids, get out of here.
It was I love that. That part was so good. And then we kind of wrap up the rest of the story bits here with I liked Bale. Like he went and told the Dematis like Kier's death and that, and he's talk about how hard it was and stuff.
Said
too.
that they made up a story that he saved the Princess of Alderaan, and he's gonna have a place on the like the royal graveyard or something, right?
And they took him to like a place where like this overlooks like this water and this forest or whatever, and like it'd be a great view, and he would have loved it because there was a point whenever he was talking about another place, and he's like, this place is almost as beautiful as Alderaan, but like it still didn't reach how beautiful Alderaan was.
Which I mean, it's a very nice gesture, but ultimately is incredibly sad because that kid gave his life to save Alderaan and only Alderaan. But instead, Leia doesn't do that, and she uses his sacrifice to ultimately help save the galaxy, but not Alderaan. Yeah. And not his final resting spot.
No.
That beautiful place and that honor that he was given is gone in a flash of green.
In like 3 more years.
The Empire can't take that from us, huh? Yeah. Yep. No. Very sad.
I also got a little teared up. There's Kier offered. So one of the things we talked about was Leia has to climb a mountain, and she was talking about wanting to do it and how hard it was going to be. And Kier was like, "Well, I could go with you." Yeah. And she says like one person could go with me, and that's allowed on the journey. And we get to the end of the book, and she's climbing the mountain, and she gets to the top, and the person who's joined her is her mom.
Yeah. Really cool.
And I was like, oh.
Awesome.
And she talks about, we learn about her accident. And she's like, I haven't been up here since I climbed this when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And the reason was that she climbed to the peak, and on her way back down is when like her heart failed and she had her accident. So like she's done this with her daughter now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She got
something
to
about that really like choked
reclaim
me up.
that. Yeah, really
I really
cool.
like that.
Yep. And even though we know that the end for a lot of the things that we found value in this is abrupt and soon, it's not without value.
Yeah.
Like that moment, Leia will always remember. I think she says something like, it was in that moment that Breha was like the most her mom has ever been. Like,
yeah.
She just looked at her so highly.
I like the way they talked about like if anyone saw the queen now, like dressed in her like in the garb she has for climbing this mountain.
Yeah, she's just wearing like paramilitary stuff.
As opposed to like her garb of like robes and royalty and stuff like that too. I like that comparison too. But like
and
this
it
is
fits
the most mom-like.
Brea's, she's a little more, she's way more willing to put on that fit and fight than Bail is.
Yeah.
Like they talk about how they had a year-long
oh man,
argument about like, hey, how far do we take this? Because Bray has like, we'll take it as far as we need to, bitch, and show off our scars,
Well, I loved whenever, like I think it was whenever Leia first learned of Bail being involved with this.
Yeah.
He's like, does mom know? It's like she started
That's
it.
her idea.
she
All
was
the things I've been saying, she's been convincing me of.
yeah. And I was like, oh man, it was her idea first. I love that.
That was good too. Yeah.
So it was really good with that.
Yep.
And then I just like once again they have the bookends where like the very first chapter we have Leia coming in to begin this 3 mind, body, heart like challenge thing.
Yeah.
And she comes in and when she comes in, there's guards there and she's like, hey, how's the kid doing? She's like, all good. And like they treat her a little younger.
Yeah.
But I liked how they talked about like now I come in and they treat me different. They treat me more like I'm an honored princess or queen or something.
More like her parents.
Yeah, versus like I'm the little kid coming through here.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was kind of a neat little comparison of her growth in the book too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't get to see it much. We probably would have seen it a lot more with Cara Dune if her character stuck around because she wasn't a character from Alderaan. But we had Lor Santeca in The Force Awakens. Like, to me, she's royalty. Like that means something to a lot of people in the galaxy. We don't get to see it much, but at least it opens that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great book. Lots of fun.
No, I had a lot of fun with this. Just some things I wasn't expecting. I love getting to see Panaka. I think Bail we don't get enough of in the movies and stuff, but Bria we get like none of. And I liked all that I got with Bria in this and the Leia.
And reading this so soon after Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's really easy to imagine them in this regard.
And Leia,
Alderaan itself.
Leia and Luke not having their parents and both having these adopted families that have taken them in. It's nice. Like we've gotten more with Luke and kind of like getting an idea of how he's been taken care of than we have with Leia. Leia maybe more so with the Kenobi series. But getting to see like how she is with her mom and what that was like of her growing up is nice to see. So I don't know. I like that a lot.
And how the ties of adopted family can be just as strong as blood ties.
Yeah. No, you have that and both of them are adopted and then you get to the end of like episode 9 and she calls herself a Skywalker and, I don't think it's like, oh, you can't have that. I think it's like, oh, well, Luke and Leia who came from adopted families and here is another lost, individual. Yeah. I think that they may not be like, we will be your parents, but I think it's like, you are part of our family. And that's most of Star Wars. If you look at Grogu and Mandalorian, or if you look at, different people, Omega and the Bad Batch or whatever, it's like, this is our family is who we make it. Yep. The rebels from like, they're a found family, not a born family. You know what I mean?
And it's the thing that Palpatine doesn't have. Like he has everything else, but he doesn't have love. He doesn't have that family. Really, he tries perversely.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work out, and is ultimately his undoing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't know if you had anything else about the book. Those are most of my notes. I do have. Whenever we were talking before, we were talking about Wobani. And I was like, I swear I know Wobani from something. And then I was like, you were like, do you want me to tell you? And I was like, no, either I'll figure it out or I'll look it up or we'll talk about it on the podcast. But where did we have Wobani before? I never did look it up.
Wobani is the prison planet that Jyn Erso is found on by K2SO.
Okay.
Yeah. They break into that Juggernaut vehicle, and she hits him with a shovel.
Yeah.
That's Wobani.
Yeah, and then he hits her.
Liana
Like,
Halleck is
like,
her name there.
we're rescuing you.
Yeah. Congratulations, you're being rescued.
That's what it is, yeah. Okay, I was thinking about, man, where is
So,
that?
yeah, Wobani, which was this great planet that had all these resources, and now we see still in Rogue One, it's being strip mined by prisoners. Yeah. So, good times.
I was wondering where that was.
The Empire can't take everything from us.
Not everything.
But some people in chat were saying that it was Benthic Two Tubes that was the partisan.
Oh, that's the one
Yeah.
who blew up Panaka?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Good old Two Tubes. He saved us because he definitely would have told Palpatine. All right, that was Leia, Princess of Alderaan book discussion. We hope that you guys enjoyed. The next book that we're going to be reading is pretty similar in regards. This is Queen's Peril by E.K. Johnston. This is the second of the Padme trilogy.
Okay.
Though, curiously, this one is going to be taking place before the last one.
This one's a prequel to it.
This
okay.
one is going to be taking place 32 years before the Battle of Yavin, which just so happens to be the year the Phantom Menace takes place. And next month in May just so happens to be the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace.
Oh, what?
So we will be returning back to that time.
Sweet.
In the Queen's Peril.
Almost like we planned it.
Someone did.
May 23rd will be the next
May
Badonka
23rd,
Gong.
yep.
So just a few days before May 25th.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, let me know, too, if you guys enjoyed us, because this time I feel like I try to jump around less because of the way I took my notes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll try to do this more if people enjoy the method of kind of going through more of the book individually rather than just kind of pinpointing things we really liked.
Yeah, Reese Davies says, I really like this organized discussion style of going through the book. Gets a lot more talked about.
Well, good.
Yep.
Good.
We will lay that completely on Aaron's shoulders.
All right. I will work on that. No, sometimes I'll just be like, all right, I'm going to listen to my book here, and I'll take my little pad, and I'll just be listening, and I'll be like, oh, I'm going to jot that down.
Gotcha.
I'm going to jot that down.
See, when I listen, I'm mowing the yard or I'm doing something. I got to occupy my hands or else I lose track of my mind sometimes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll start doing other things, and I'll be like, shoot, what they say? And
Yeah.
I'll rewind it back, and then okay,
Yep.
it was that. And then I'm like, I remember this. It's like, why'd I rewind it? It's like, because I didn't retain it.
I
So
know.
writing
It's
it down,
difficult.
sometimes I retain it a little bit better.
It can be. It's getting more difficult as I get older or as the world progresses. I don't know if the TikTok generations are big readers.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know?
I've never been a big reader, so I'm glad to.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be able to do these things. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
me
fun.
too.